Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the Mauritius Hydrographic Services Bill number 11 of 2026 be read a second time. Madam Speaker, this is a short bill, 17 clauses in 5 parts, yet it addresses one of the oldest responsibilities a maritime nation owes: the duty to know, to measure, to publish the truth about its own waters. For an island state whose land area is 2,040 square kilometers, but whose maritime jurisdiction extends over some 2.3 million square kilometers of the Indian Ocean, that duty is a foundational attribute of sovereignty. Every chart used by a vessel entering Port Louis, every depth sounding off-road rigs, every survey line run over the Saya de Malha Bank is a sovereign act. It says this water is Mauritian, and Mauritius is answerable for its safety, its science, its commerce. Until today, that act has been carried out by a small but dedicated hydrographic unit of my ministry, operating under administrative practice rather than statute. This bill at last gives that work the legal foundation it has always deserved. Madam Speaker, 3 converging realities have made this bill urgent. First, legal. Mauritius is a state party to UNCLOS and to SOLAS. Chapter 5, Regulation 9 of SOLAS obliges every contracting government to arrange for the collection of hydrographic data and the publication of nautical information. We have honored that obligation by administrative practice. This bill translates that practice into law. La deuxième réalité, Madame la Présidente, est d'ordre géographique. Elle est décisive. Le 22 mai 2025, la République de Maurice et le Royaume-Uni ont conclu l'accord sur l'archipel des Chagos, par lequel le Royaume-Uni reconnaît la souveraineté pleine et entière de Maurice sur l'ensemble de l'archipel. À cela s'ajoute notre soumission à la Commission des limites du plateau continental concernant la région de Rodrigue, environ 183 000 km², au-delà de la ligne des 200 000 marins, ainsi que la zone de gestion conjointe convenue avec la République de Seychelles et sur le plateau des Mascareilles. L'espace maritime placé sous notre souveraineté figure désormais parmi les plus vastes de tous les petits États insulaires de l'océan Indien. Or, Madame la Présidente, on ne gouverne pas ce que l'on n'a pas mesuré. On ne défend pas ce qu'on n'a pas cartographié. On n'exploite pas légitimement ce qu'on ne l'a pas relevé. Ce projet de loi nous donne précisément l'instrument statutaire pour faire les 3. The third, Madam Speaker, is economic. 4 submarine telecommunication cables, SAFE, Line and Line 2, MAS and T3, land on our shores, carrying more than 98% of our international data traffic. Port Louis handles the vast majority of our external trade. Our exclusive economic zone contains significant tuna fisheries, prospective offshore renewable energy sites, and some of the most ecologically important coral ecosystems in the Western Indian Ocean. Each one of those interests, Madam Speaker, depends on reliable hydrographic knowledge. I would add a 4th reality. Mauritian industry has been asking for this clarity. Marine consultancies, port engineering firms, cable operators, cruise liners, insurers, and offshore developers have all indicated that the absence of clear statutory framework is a friction cost in their operations. This bill removes that friction. Madam Speaker, this legislation confers 5 clear advantages on the Republic. First, data sovereignty in law. Clause 12 declares that all hydrographic data collected within our maritime zones shall be deemed the property of the state. When a foreign research vessel surveys our seabed, when a private consultancy maps a reef, when a cable lay-up contractor charts a corridor across the continental shelf, the resulting data does not leave Mauritius as a commercial byproduct. It vests in the Republic. It becomes national heritage. This aligns us with Norway, France, Australia, and Canada, and moves us decisively beyond the colonial era arrangements under which our waters were surveyed and the data retained by others. Second, full charting authority over the Chagos archipelago. I say again, full charting authority over the Chagos archipelago and the extended shelf. Following the 2025 agreement, the primary right to publish official nautical charts of the archipelago passes, in coordination with the United Kingdom Hydrographic Office, to Mauritius. Without this bill, we would be a sovereign without a cartographer. Third, explicit compliance with SOLAS, UNCLOS, and the standards of IHO, IALA, and IMO, all named in Clause 5, Mauritius will discharge its international obligations not by administrative circular, but by Act of Parliament, a distinction material to every ship owner, every classification society, and every marine insurer. Fourth, a single authoritative national voice. Clause 6 creates the Office of the Chief Hydrographer, who will be the single point of contact with the IHO, with foreign hydrographic officers, and with ships' masters reporting charts errors in our waters. Fifth, reinforcement of our regional leadership. Mauritius currently holds the vice chair of the Southern African and Islands Hydrographic Commission of the IHO. The bill signals to that community that we intend to hold that seat with the full authority of the statute behind us. Madam Speaker, sovereignty is the frame within which lies tangible economic opportunity. I highlight 5 streams of value. First, recurring revenue from electronic navigational charts. Every SOLAS class vessel is required to carry digital charts distributed through the IHO regional ENC coordinating centers and licensed on a paid basis. Once established with statutory chart issuing authority, Mauritius becomes a producer nation, and every ENC cell covering our waters represents a recurring royalty to the Republic. Second, a more competitive Mauritius. Modern, up-to-date, large-scale charts reduce insurance premia, permit deeper draft vessels to call with confidence and shorten pilotage times. Third, de-risking of the submarine cable industry. Clause 9 establishes a licensing regime for route surveys, deposits the resulting bathymetry with the national custodian, and protects the corridors from unauthorized interference. For cable operators, this is not a burden, it is regulatory certainty. Fourth, a regulated market for private hydrographic surveyors. Clause 8 explicitly provides for private persons to conduct surveys subject to authorization. It creates a market with rules, and markets with rules attract investment. The foundation, fifth, is the foundation for offshore energy. Offshore energy, climate resilience, and marine tourism. You cannot site an offshore wind turbine without knowing the seabed. You cannot expand a fishery sustainability without knowing its habitat. You cannot defend a coastline against sea level rise without repeat bathymetry. The bill creates the institution that will hold, curate, and release the data on which every one of these industries depends. Madam Speaker, I would add that the hydrographic data assembled by the MHS will constitute the foundational geospatial layer for any future scientific or economic assessment of our seabed. From marine spatial planning to fisheries habitat mapping to the eventual evaluation of seabed resources. Yes, seabed resources. Whatever choices future governments may make in those domains, they will make them on the basis of Mauritian data, held in Mauritian custody under Mauritian law. Clause 1, Madam Speaker, provides the short title. Allow me to run through the clauses very briefly. Clause 2 provides the interpretations. Hydrographic data is defined broadly. Nautical chart includes both paper charts and electronic navigational charts. The definitions are drawn from IHO publications so that Mauritian law speaks the same technical language as the international community. Madam Speaker, Clause 3 to 5, Clause 3 first establishes the MHS as a department of my ministry. Clause 4 sets out its objects. Clause 5 catalogues its functions, the collection of hydrographic data, the production, publication, and updating of nautical charts, the maintenance of uniformity with IHO standards, the assurance that surveys meet established benchmarks, and the representation of Mauritius in international hydrographic fora. Administration, Clause 6 and 7. Clause 6 establishes the office of the Chief Hydrographer, a public officer with technical qualifications recognized by the IHO. Clause 7 provides for staff drawn from officers of my ministry. This is a lean structure, no parastatal, no board, with per diems. This is, for Clause 8 to 13, the operative heart of the bill. Clause 8 requires authorization for any non-MHS hydrographic survey, a quality insurance mechanism, not a barrier to entry. Clause 9 sets the conditions of authorization referenced to IHO Special Publication S44. Clause 10 reserves the issuance of official charts to the MHS. Clause 11 confers carefully circumscribed power of entry onto adjacent land, preserving any right to compensation. Clause 12 vests all hydrographic data in the state. Clause 13 imposes confidentiality obligations subject to disclosure only with written authorization. Clause 14 establishes the offenses: producing an unofficial chart purporting to be official, refusing to submit data, or falsifying hydrographic data. Each attracts a fine up to 500,000 rupees and imprisonment up to 5 years. Some members may consider those penalties severe. They are calibrated to the gravity of the harm. A false chart is not a paperwork error. It is a document that can sink a ship. Clause 15 confers regulation-making power on the minister. Clause 16 provides seamless transition. The existing hydrographic unit is deemed to be the NHS, and its head becomes the chief hydrographer. Clause 17 provides for commencement by proclamation, which I intend within 90 days to obtain assent, as quick as possible. As far as financial implications, Madam Speaker, the bill carries no immediate additional cost. Staff, officers, and equipment of the existing unit are carried forward. Regulations under Clause 15 will introduce a schedule of fees expected to place MHS on a partial cost recovery footing. Capital investment will be brought before this House in the ordinary budgetary way. The Ministry of Finance has confirmed the provisions of this bill are within existing votes for the current financial year. Mauritius now joins a movement of maritime states, Madam Speaker, including the Bahamas, recognized in 2026 as the newest IHO member, and more recently Gambia, that have placed their hydrographic services on a statutory footing. I'd like to record the constructive engagement of the United Kingdom Hydrographic Office in preparing for the orderly transition of charting responsibilities in the Chagos Archipelago, and the support of the IHO Secretariat in Monaco and of our partners in the SAIHC, in particular the South African Navy Hydrographic Office. Madame la Présidente, je tiens à souligner tout particulièrement dans la langue qui convient deux partenaires francophones dont l'appui a été constant, à la République française et à son service hydrographique et océanographique de la marine, le CHOM, avec lequel nous partageons les responsabilités qui s'attachent aux eaux environnant la Réunion. J'exprime la gratitude sincère du gouvernement mauricien pour la qualité d'une coopération technique et scientifique qui s'inscrit dans la durée. À la République des Seychelles, avec laquelle nous administrons conjointement la zone de gestion conjointe sur le plateau des Mascareilles. I would have done that in Creole, but I'll keep that for another time. J'adresse également nos sincères remerciements pour un partenariat exemplaire de ce que peuvent accomplir des États insulaires unis par la géographie, par l'histoire et par une même volonté d'affirmer leurs droits sur l'océan qui les entoure. Madam Speaker, it is only right that I should pay a particular tribute to the government of the Republic of India. The partnership between Mauritius and India in the maritime domain is long-standing, deep, and in the specific field of hydrography, a very direct consequence to the bill now before this House. The Indian Naval Hydrographic Department of Dehradun has over many years extended to Mauritius practical assistance of a kind that only a fellow Indian ocean state with world-class hydrographic capacity could offer. Joint hydrographic surveys in our waters, the training of Mauritian officers at the National Institute of Hydrography, capacity building missions conducted by Indian survey ships, and the sharing of technical expertise in chart production, tidal analysis, and modern survey methodology. I place on record of this House the sincere gratitude of the government of Mauritius to the government of India for its continued support and close collaboration in the field of hydrography. The institution which this bill establishes will, I have no doubt, deepen that partnership further. Madam Speaker, before I conclude, I owe a number of tributes closer to home. Je tiens en premier lieu à exprimer ma profonde gratitude au très honorable Premier ministre, dont la conviction personnelle que Maurice doit parler pour ses propres eaux a porté cette législation, du concept jusqu'à cette Assemblée. Ce projet de loi n'existerait pas sous cette forme sans son leadership constant, sans son orientation stratégique au lendemain de l'accord sur les Chagos de mai 2025, et sans sa vision claire d'une Maurice pleinement maritime. Non pas simplement un État qui se trouve être une île. J'étends cette gratitude à l'ensemble des officiers du bureau du Premier ministre, dont la coordination diligente à travers l'appareil gouvernemental a permis à cet instrument d'arriver devant les membres de cette Chambre, bien rédigé, dûment concerté et prêt à être adopté. I wish also to record my sincere thanks to the officers of my ministry who have been clairement les chevilles ouvrières of this piece of well-drafted legislation. I wish to place on record my sincere thanks to the Honourable Attorney General, to all the officers of the Attorney General's office, the technical drafting of a bill that must harmonize domestic law with UNCLOS, SOLAS, and the standards of the IHO, IALA, and IMO, while also giving proper effect to the charting implications of the 2025 agreement on the Chagos archipelago, is a demanding exercise. The bill, therefore, before the House is a testament to their skill, their patience, and their care for the constitutional integrity of the Mauritian legislation. My thanks extend also to the Mauritius Port Authority, the National Coast Guard, the Ministry of Blue Economy, my colleague who's here, Marine Resources, Fisheries and Shipping, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, who is also acting for today, and to industry representatives, including the Mauritius Chamber of Commerce and Industry's Maritime Committee. Madam Speaker, this bill does four things in a single, coherent legal act. It establishes an institution. It vests our hydrographic data in the Republic. It creates a regulated market for surveys and charts. And it positions Mauritius to assume full responsibilities and to reap the full benefits of sovereignty over one of the largest maritime jurisdictions in the Indian Ocean. It is a modest bill in its length. It is an ambitious bill in its consequences. It says to our seafarers, your safety is a matter of law. It says to our industries, your operating environment is one of legal certainty. It says to our neighbors in the Indian Ocean, Mauritius will hold its place at the regional table. Ce projet de loi envoie un message clair, Madame la Présidente, à la communauté internationale tout entière. Cette République prend au sérieux les obligations de la souveraineté sur le vaste espace maritime que lui convient la géographie, le droit des traités et la reconnaissance récente de ses droits sur l'archipel des Chagos. Pour un pays de la mer, un pays dont le destin a toujours été lié à l'océan qui l'entoure, il est difficile d'imaginer un texte de loi plus approprié à présenter devant cette Assemblée. Madame la Présidente, I commend the bill to the House and I beg to move that it be read second.